Now that we have all of our lumber rough cut, the next step is to flatten and dimension everything. The size of this flag dictates that we need a 2-inch wide stripe. In order to do this, we're actually going to be using a planer and a joiner. If you don't have access to these tools, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. This step could actually be skipped and done once the flag is fully assembled. To do this, you could use a random orbit sander or even a belt sander if you had it. But since I'm fortunate enough to have access to these tools, that's what I'm going to be using. We're at the point now where we can get our template out and use the template to start designing the wave pattern on the flag. So the flag has 13 stripes and we have numbers lined from 1 to 12. The end of this template is actually going to be 0 for a total of 13. So all you have to do is line the edge of the template up to the edge of the board. Once you have that, then you can trace out your pattern. And we have to write 0 on the end of the board. So the very next board will be 1. So 1 will actually overhang the board. And we'll do the exact same thing. We'll trace out our template, write a 1 on the end of the board, bring the next one in, and 2 will overhang. So essentially all this is doing is creating the waves in the flag and shifting the wave over a 1/2 inch to 1 inch at a time. And then once we have all of the template drawn on all the boards, we can take this to our bandsaw and cut out the rough shape. Again, if you don't have a bandsaw, it's not that big of a deal. You can use the jigsaw for this as well. Now, after a lot of cutting on the bandsaw, it basically looks like we just have a bunch of pieces that have curves cut all over them. But the reason we numbered them is because we start from 0 to 13, and once we actually straighten these out, the rough shape of the flag kind of comes to life. So I'll be honest, this piece right here is kind of bothering me. I don't like that. I'm probably going to end up taking this one out and redoing it and getting one that's a little bit lighter color. That just sticks out like a sore thumb. But for another time. The next part of this process is hand carving all of the waves in the flag. One of the best ways to do this is with a 40 grit flap wheel. You can just use a right angle grinder for this. This works unbelievably well. The only problem with it is that it creates incredibly fine dust that gets everywhere in your shop. So rather than using the flap wheel, I'm going to be using an Arbortech turbo plane. The benefit of this is that instead of real fine dust, it comes off in fine chips or shavings, which is much easier to clean up, and the dust doesn't quite linger in the air as bad as it does with a flap wheel. But either one works. They both work very well. got all of our red stripes stained now, the next thing we're going to be doing is completely assembling the flag. We'll be doing that with glue and screws in between each board. And then the final thing we'll have to do is focus on the union and getting the stars and the blue on the union part of it. The flag actually has specific ratios that you have to follow. For the project we have here, the stripes actually dictate how big the flag can be. So this is roughly 2 foot by 4 foot. So that means our stripes have to be approximately 2 inches wide, and then the union itself will be 14 by 19 3/4. So once we have everything assembled, we'll use a Cricut to print out a stencil. I'll place the stencil on the union, peel off all the stickers, stain everything blue, and then finally we'll be able to remove the stars. Once all of the stain is applied, we'll put 3 coats of finish on it, and we'll have a finished flag. I'm sure as you were watching this, you could see a pretty big mistake right here. Evidently we went from 50 states down to 49. My dad always told me that good woodworker is able to hide all the mistakes he makes during the course of the project. It's going to be a little hard being that this is on YouTube, but it is good advice nonetheless. So all I have to do is just sand this area down and redo the star before we can start putting the finish on the flag.